If you find this podcast remotely interesting and helpful, then I ask that you please subscribe and share it with others. This is really just a passion project for me. It's an outlet for me to share what I am learning, which I really enjoy, and I would love it if it's actually helpful to people. So if you could please subscribe and share, it would make my wildest dreams come true. Thank you. All right, on to the episode.
Microphone check, microphone check.
Hey, what's up? This is season 2 of the Intricately Woven podcast. I am Rachel Cancino-Neal, health restoration coach and nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm joined by my husband, Derek Neal.
Hey guys.
As we dive into the digestive system throughout the season. In today's episode, we are answering the question, how does the brain prepare the body for digestion, and why does that matter?
Ooh.
Are you ready to do this?
Let's dive in.
Let's dive. All right, so today we are focusing on phase 1 of digestion, which is brain phase.
Wait, so you're telling me we're still talking about the nervous system?
Yes, but like in a transitional way as we talked about digestion.
Okay, so does the vagus nerve have anything to do with that?
You know, it's interesting that you should bring that up, Derek Lee, because yes, it sure does. Okay, so before we get into all that, let's remind our listeners about the central and the peripheral nervous system. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, hold up that fist.
Got it.
All right, we got our fist going on here. The fist part reminds us of
The brain.
Then we have the wrist, which remind us of
Brainstem.
brainstem, and then that forearm reminds us of the
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
the spinal cord.
The spinal cord.
Central nervous system. All right, Derek. Once the messages leave the central or come out from the outside areas, I'm curious
That's
if you
the
remember
peripheral nervous system.
That's the peripheral. Can you explain what the peripheral is, just in case we haven't really honed that in yet?
That would be the nerve endings, like in your fingertips, in your skin, that send the sensation, that whatever it's receiving, back to the central nervous system.
Right. So it's those nerves outside of the brain, spinal cord, that's like sensing the world around you. So this can be the nerves that are in your eyes and your skin and your toes. All of these nerve endings outside of the brain spinal cord would be considered part of the peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral will communicate with the brain either by running up the spinal cord or having a direct connection, like in the case of the vagus nerve. So that's where that vagus nerve comes in when we're talking about the digestion process.
Okay, but it kind of feels like you're already nerding out.
Oh. It's not time for that yet.
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Is it really that important to understand the vagus nerve when it comes to this digestion thing?
In my humble opinion, yes. Because it does so many different things. And like, I'll level with you. I am not a neurologist. I am not a neuroscientist, but I have read different books and different literature, read different things. And after all that, I just really believe that the vagus nerve can sometimes go unnoticed. And so I think it totally matters because of how many different things it impacts.
Okay, so how?
How what?
How does it impact our digestion?
Okay. Yeah. So this nerve runs directly from the brain to the digestive organs, and it's responsible to carry out most of those rest and digest. So if you remember, there's like 2 main automatic responses: rest and digest, fight or flight, right? parasympathetic, sympathetic. So those are going. The vagus nerve is the main carrier of the parasympathetic rest and digest, right? So then if this like nerve isn't functioning very well, if it's not functioning very well, it can mean that your digestive processes have a change, like chronic constipation or poor nutrient absorption, blood sugar imbalances, hormone imbalances. Do you see? A poorly working vagus nerve or not allowing the vagus nerve to interact with digestion first, those digestive organs, can mean that the brain can't get the body ready to do its job fully. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, can I go circle back? Vagus works with parasympathetic. That's in that.
The vagus carries most of the parasympathetic nervous system response.
Okay,
Rest
so
and
that's,
digest.
that is showing fight or flight is so bad to eat when you're in that state.
I don't want to label it like it's bad, but it does
You're not going to get the
hinder.
nutrition.
It's not going to allow your digestive organs to be as fully engaged with the process.
Gotcha.
Okay, good question. Okay, so it's not just the vagus nerve either that is like a big part. It's like the major thing to carry the impulses out, but there's actually certain parts of your brains. We're going to get into this in the next segment. But there's certain areas that hold memories and emotion, and all that gets lit up when we're talking about digestion and how well you can digest. Isn't that interesting?
Memories?
Yes.
So that would be like emotional eating.
There could be foods that you associate with comfort when you feel a certain thing, and there's a reason why that is going on.
Okay.
Right? But some of that can be tied into the memories. Some of it could be into the neurotransmitter release. The nervous system communication that happens after you eat, like high carb foods, which is normally what we're talking about. So like a serotonin feel good feeling after you're done eating. Yeah. Okay. So before we get into all that, I just jumped the gun there. But let's remember there are 3 main phases of digestion. And this is why we're talking about the vagus nerve again, because phase 1 of digestion is the brain phase. Phase 2 is your stomach phase. And that can take a few hours, meaning the contents have made it down to the stomach and they're in there for a few hours before your stomach is actually emptied out. Then we have phase 3, the intestinal phase. And this means that it's moved out of the stomach. It's now moving its way throughout the small and large intestine. And this can take several hours or days for some people. Okay? Okay, so Derek, again, remind us, what are the 3 phases of digestion?
All right. So you got 3 phases. First being the brain phase.
Mm-hmm.
Second is the stomach phase.
Yes.
And the third would be the intestinal phase.
Wonderful, yes. So the time it takes for the food to enter your mouth and exit the south end is called your transit time. That's important as we are going to get more into this, looking at how long it takes you to eat the food and what's a polite way of having a bowel movement and having some kind of movement on the other end. From a functional standpoint, meaning like looking at how well the body's actually working, not only is it in a disease process, we love seeing a bare minimum of 1 bowel movement per day, where that bowel movement is actually leaving you feeling empty. So after you go to the bathroom, here's a hint that I'm realizing people don't always know, that you should feel like you have emptied out, especially on the left side of your body. You should feel like that has been emptied out and there's not really anything left. If you have a movement, but you're still like, ooh, I think there's still some more in there, that's not a full movement. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, you should feel like you can't go anymore. That would be counting as a full bowel movement. Even more ideal. So that's like in a 1 per day minimum from a functional standpoint. An ideal movement would be actually for each meal you have a movement. So like breakfast, you might have that movement by the end of the day or tomorrow morning. Lunch, the same thing. So that that movement, that transit time would be more like the optimal level, right? When we're looking in terms of just what transit time can look like, between 10 to 24 hours can mean that things are moving really well. And if you're having a full movement, then it can mean that you're digesting things really well. So that would be great.
That is good.
Yeah. For me personally, I have a history of a lot of damage and inflammation through my GI tract. So I'm not to that optimal level yet, but like it's gotten significantly better, and like inflammation has come down and all that good stuff. So yay. You can't have change. If it's not happening now, doesn't mean it has to stay that way. All right. So let's get more into the brain phase as we move into our coffee shop talk. All right, here we go. Brain phase. Phase 1 of digestion. Here's what we're going to do. Derek, I want you to think about your favorite food. Think about how it feels in your mouth. What your nostrils will sense. You getting it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've got it.
Really think about you are eating that food. Think about your environment. Think about all the things surrounding that food.
Okay.
Do you have a food in mind?
I do.
What is it?
Lasagna.
Lasagna. The one I used to make?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell our listening audience about that amazing lasagna, please.
It's delicious. Homemade ricotta cheese, homemade tomato sauce, fresh beef, fresh grated mozzarella.
Ooh, there's like fresh basil and
everything
parsley.
fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh.
So
How many times
good.
can I say fresh?
I don't know. And for the record, that isn't necessarily a unhealthy meal, but for us, our bodies react to tomatoes, and so that's why it kind of just we never found a
We
good
don't get
substitute.
to have it.
Yeah, so it is something we love to eat, but we haven't had it in a long time. I'm just letting you know, I just activated your brain phase of digestion. So listeners, I want you to think about your favorite foods. What makes you drool? What makes you gleek? You know, like where that spit comes out uncontrollably? Think about that. That is your brain preparing your body for digestion, which is why you might have some more stomach growling and you can really start craving that food because your mind has already gotten there, right? So what's happening is that your stomach is getting prepared, your pancreas is getting more ready. The longer you sit in that brain phase, the more things will get prepped until food actually starts to enter. And Derek, you and I were just talking, I don't know, maybe like a few days ago about how disappointing it is when you like have prepared your mind for a certain food and then you get like the look-alike food, but like your palate is ready for like the real thing. And then you go and you take a bite of the look-alike food and then
It's such a letdown.
it's such a letdown. Or sometimes it's just it catches you off guard, right?
Yeah.
Well, it honestly makes me wonder, like, doing lookalikes is, like, really popular as, like, a food substitute. You know, we do it where, like,
Right.
it looks similar, but it's not really. And I'm just, like, wonder how effective that actually is. Like, you know, silly example, like, if you have pumpkin pie, but it's actually, like, sweet potato pie, or if you have rice, but it's actually cauliflower. Like, if you're not ready for that and you think, I'm about to eat rice, then you ain't gonna like it. Actually, a friend just told me the story the other day that they were serving a macaroni and cheese mock, like a mock macaroni and cheese, and I can't remember the ingredients, but her daughter, who's about 4, she took a bite and put her fork down and said, "This is not mac and cheese." So, you know, she felt the
Gypped.
disappointing. Molly, that one's for you. and you're a little one there. And I love that story because it's like true. You take a bite and it's not the real thing. So honestly, I mean, we do it.
Yeah, for
Right?
us, it's normal now.
For us,
Like,
it's normal. And anytime we do it with other people, I always say, just so you know, this isn't really brownies. This is an avocado with chocolate stuff. Like, go cacao, raw cacao and some maple syrup. It is not your traditional brownie. Like, I try to prepare them. So I just kind of wonder if that's like an effective, I don't know. Listeners, what do you think? Is that effective? Doing lookalikes? Just curious. Okay, so here is what is believed to be happening when those things occur, when we're talking about brain phase. And I'm not going to say, like, this is 100% what's going to happen, because honestly, there's so much of the research that you'll see it is unknown. So we're not 100%. And like I've said before, I don't know if we will ever be 100%. I don't think we will. But here's what we believe is what's happening. When you're looking at a particular food or you're thinking about a particular food, a certain area of your brain is starting pulling up memories associated with that food and the experience surrounding having that food. When it's a good, pleasant memory, then your emotions get pretty excited about the prospect of having that food, right?
right. So you're saying that these good memories or pleasant memories make you want the food.
Yeah.
So then, is that why it's so hard for people to start giving up certain foods?
Yeah.
And make changes to their diet or their lifestyle?
Yeah. Even when they know it's like not serving their bodies well.
Right.
Right. Yes. Yep. That's brain phase, baby. It's very, very powerful. So when you are trying to change your diet, you may have like zero memories associated with that food, or the memories you do have aren't pleasant. So your brain is like, nope, don't want that. Essentially, so it's been conditioned that certain foods are good and others are bad. And the brain preps the body better when it associates the food with being good. All right, so going back to your lasagna example, you start to salivate. You start to get ready for that because your brain has been conditioned. This is really good. Get the body ready because we're going to like this.
Right.
All right? So this is called a conditional reflex. So just like muscle reflexes aren't really thought about, like when they tap your knee and you reflex, the same thing happens with the conditional reflex. Yeah, so when we're looking at that and you're thinking about changing your diet, what you're really doing is a nervous system change.
So it's like you're starting to work out.
Right.
From zero, you can't go out and bench press your weight. You've
Right.
got to work your way up to that.
Right. Yep. Introduce those tastes a little bit at a time. And then you really want to make sure the experience is pleasant and relaxing. So like letting your nose, your eyes, your taste buds interact a bit with the food before you even start the process of eating it. That's a part of brain phase. Talk about so I think it was in the last episode I said, if there's a stressful conversation happening, pause, because it needs to be a pleasant experience, right? Mm-hmm. So especially when you're trying to change things up, look at the positive things. Sometimes when you're changing, let's say you are doing cauliflower instead of rice, and you're eating that cauliflower, you're like, this just isn't as good as rice. Okay, it's different, right? So how can you start changing your mindset and making it more pleasant? Eating that cauliflower and saying, man, I am so grateful that I get to have an alternative and help support my body in a different way. That's awesome, right? So making it a pleasant thing, and then like really chewing your food. This will help those taste buds to talk to the brain, and there's like communication that's happening actually right there inside your mouth. So that's why chewing your food is so important. Okay, I'm going to nerd out just for a moment so I can give you some technical words. And you, my 50%ers who drop off right about now, what if you just like hold on? What if this is the episode you tune in and then bam, you get a clue as to why you're having digestive issues? That rhymed. I did not plan on that. But let's say that one more time. Maybe you'll get a clue for your digestive issues. All right, so let's nerd out. All right, I know we have talked about the vagus nerve quite a bit, but in my opinion, understanding the importance of this wandering nerve might go unrecognized when we were talking about digestion. Like, we recognize it as an important aspect, but maybe we just don't always consider it when we're looking at digestive challenges. So not only is it a part of digestion, but it impacts so many other areas. So I wanted to help us track where that vagus nerve is going so you can see why I think it's so important. All right, so the path of the vagus nerve goes like this. You get your brain, and there's this opening for your jugular nerve, right? So your jugular nerve connect to areas that are ear, the mouth, the throat, and vocal cords. Okay, then it will continue downward and it will branch out toward the arteries. So this is why it impacts your heart rate. And the heart will actually communicate with the vagus nerve to communicate with the brain. So that messages are sent up. All right, so then this wandering nerve keeps going down to your digestive organs. So it's moving through the arteries around it, going down, following that path. Then it's going to innervate at the diaphragm through the esophagus. So it's going down that throat, coming all the way down. Diaphragm is right below your lungs, along your rib cage, like the base of your, if you felt the base of your rib cage, your diaphragm muscle follows that. And then it's going to reach down into the stomach, wrap around that thing. Then it's going to move along to the intestines all the way down. And so there are places. So if you're catching that, it's going from your brain all the way down. That's a lot, right? So it's going all the way down. So then there are places along that path that has both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic, the fight or flight, parasympathetic, rest and digest. These two inhibit the other. So if you're more in a parasympathetic state, it will dampen fight or flight responses. But if your fight or flight is being activated, it overrides basically those parasympathetic responses. So in thinking about the pathways of the vagus nerve, we can understand why the cephalic phase, the brain phase of digestion, is crucial when we're talking about full digestive processes. Specifically, thanks to the cephalic phase, we have things like the stomach acid that begins to become much more potent, which that needs to happen. And then the pancreas begins to secrete digestive enzymes to actually break food down chemically. Okay, so you'll also notice when you were thinking about your favorite foods, you had maybe some saliva building up in your mouth. Okay, that conditional reflex, that good food's about to come. This has been activated. This is cephalic phase, brain phase. Okay, so this conditional reflex is thought to be an expression of these areas of the brain called the hippocampus and the amygdala working together. So the job of the hippocampus is to store long-term memories, and the amygdala attaches emotions to memories and thoughts. So if you have an experience if you've experienced a traumatic event while eating certain foods, or if you had a really unpleasant experience, like throwing up after eating certain foods, then your amygdala has attached negative emotions to that food, and the hippocampus has stored that in a long-term memory bank. So then you don't want to eat that particular food. Okay, so as you can see, the brain is highly active, and those rest and digest impulses get carried mainly through the vagus nerve to these digestive organs so that you can digest that food well. Anything working against that just slows down or inhibits that process from happening. Hence, being present and mindful as you're eating can aid in your digestive processes. Sound good?
It does.
Okay, good. All right, now let's see what you can do to support these processes more effectively. All right, Derek, what was your takeaway from that nerd out moment?
Well, my main takeaway was the fact that the brain and the vagus nerve, well, let me rephrase that. It's just the role the brain actually plays in the digestion process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you say that all the time. You need to think about your food, these different things.
Yeah.
But just the fact that vagus nerve, which is directly connected with the brain,
Mm-hmm.
is intertwined with everything throughout your body.
Yeah. Yeah, I encourage you to Google vagus nerve, or vagus nerve pathway, and just see it, because it really touches all along the core, all the way down. If you were to rub your hand, from your starting with your throat and just going all the way down, it's touching things all the way. So it's very the word I had is invasive. It's not invasive, but it just touches so many different things. I think it's super interesting that parts of your brain stores memories for particular foods, and whether or not you attached a good thing or a negative emotion to it. So, yeah. All right, so let's talk about what you can do now, okay? I'm going to sound like a broken record, possibly, when it comes to some of these things, but it's worth emphasizing again. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Listen, dear listener. Pay close attention here. Be mindful when you eat. Take breaths. And ideally, take 3 minutes to allow your senses to engage with the food you are about to eat. That means look at it. Recall any kind of memories that you have surrounding this food, like we did when I was asking you about the lasagna. If it's a new food, give it a little taste and let your mouth get to know what you're eating. Notice textures, smells, what is the taste like on your tongue, and then make the environment enjoyable so that you will be able to attach positive things, a positive experience to this moment, to this food. The aim here is to let your nervous system know that you are having a restful moment and it's safe to explore this new experience. Because anytime we're going outside a comfort zone, our nervous system can start to scream, danger, danger, danger. But if we see it as an adventure, if our perspective is this food is adventurous, I'm trying something new to better my body, you have shifted your perspective. You have shifted now how well your body can respond to that moment. And you're allowing your nervous system to say, okay, this is all good. I'm going to taste this and see what happens. All right, in a more positive light. Another tactic to try to encourage cephalic phase is to chew your food thoughtfully and thoroughly. Again, when you're doing this, you have these receptors on your tongue, your taste buds, that gives information to the brain. The brain then tells the digestive organs the kind of food you're eating. It also produces certain enzymes in your mouth to help break that food down, depending on what it is. So the more you chew that food, the more communication you're having from the food, from your mouth to your brain, the easier it will be for your stomach to do its job in the next phase of digestion. So what do you think about that?
Well, based off of what you were saying about being in a restful state, you had made the statement of looking at the food and coming up with memories associated with the food.
Yeah.
So since you want to be in a restful state, I'm going to guess that those memories need to be positive memories. You want to try and pull up positive memories associated with the food?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, if it's something that you have prepared, more than likely you like it. If it's a new food or you don't have a lot of experience with it, yeah, just trying to create the moment of goodness. But yeah, don't try to stir up negative thoughts. Basically, negativity will hamper the whole process, right? So any kind of positive elements you can bring into it, then that's what you want to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just say maybe you're somebody who has been doing amazing at, making sure you are resting before you start to eat. Like you're sitting down, you're enjoying the moment, you're enjoying mealtime, but you're still noticing chronic digestive challenges like bloating, passing gas, belching, general discomfort. It might be time to consider things more carefully. Because remember, these are actually all symptoms, what I just mentioned. And symptoms are there to communicate that something is off or the body is trying to rebalance somewhere. So if you want to be empowered and equipped to find the root causes and alleviate symptoms, you and I can team up to see what's going on. You can visit icanreclaim.com to learn more about that. Derek, do you have any final thoughts before we head off here in our shorter episode?
Well, just the fact that those symptoms you were talking about, I had no clue were symptoms. Mm-hmm. I would get a headache weekly before we got married, and even when we first were married.
Yeah.
And then now, 12 years later, understanding that is my body telling me things that, hey, I'm struggling here. You need more water, or you need more sleep. Yeah. Whatever it may be.
Yeah. Or, I think with the passing gas, I had brothers, and so, passing gas is so funny, Ugh. But it actually is a symptom. It's actually letting you know that your stomach is, or somewhere along your GI tract is inflamed, and it's passing gas because it's got to get pressure off, basically. So, yeah, if you or someone struggles with letting out the gas, that means that something is going on. And especially if you're like, what is that? The bean magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Mm-hmm. There's actually a reason why that can start happening, and it has to do with how well you can digest things and the possible imbalances you have in your large intestine. So like stuff that we just laugh at, whatever. But know that is actually not normal, and that it is a symptom that things are struggling. Right. So, yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, that is all we have for you today. Look at that, about 35 minutes. Cutting you guys loose. Well, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Derek.
And we are hoping to help you put the pieces of your health together. Talk to you next time.